Let an old man tell you that it's never too late to do what you want to do. Might take a while, but it's never late. I was born in 1978. I'm 46 years old, and this is what I wish I knew when I was younger. Okay, let's see. Number one, I'm gonna be honest with you. Nobody cares. We spend a lot of time worrying about what people might think, especially in social gatherings and events where you're thinking, am I dressed correctly? Am I singing too loud? Am I talking too much? Stuff like that. But here's the truth. Everybody else is thinking the exact same thing about themselves. Everybody is self-centered to an extent. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Most people tend to think they're way more important to their environment than we actually are. It's normal. Nobody is looking at you. Everybody is in their corner worried about what other people might think about them. They're having the same exact issue as you. No one cares enough so that you have to stop being who you are. Number two, the people that will judge you are literally only trying to prevent you from succeeding. Usually that comes from a place of insecurity, a place of jealousy. You cannot succeed because I didn't. You cannot try because I didn't even try. So the people who judge you do not matter. One of the things that I learned as I was getting older is if you're not paying a bill in my house, then I don't care what you think. You can think that I am ridiculous or silly or too much of a weirdo or whatever. Who gives a shit? This rule of who's paying bills helps me filter a lot of noise out because I do let people have a say in my life. I do allow people to help me, but it's people that I choose, people that I love and trust. But beyond that, if you're not contributing, you don't get a vote. I don't give a shit what you think about me. Number three, there is a strong correlation between boundaries and happiness. There's a direct line between vocalizing what you actually like and dislike and how good you feel in your own skin. I've seen this in some of my friends, people that think they're a nuisance, that they bother other people. They tend to be quiet about what they really want, what they want to do, what they believe in. And they become this sort of person who is afraid of being themselves, so they can only be their true self in private. And that sort of masking will never result in a life that's fulfilling. So once again, learn how to speak about what you actually want. Learn boundaries. I have a video on this that I will link at the end. Number four, you cannot outsource your own well-being. It has to come from within. It has to come from a place of acceptance of who you are, acceptance of what we want to do, acceptance of the things you enjoy. Being yourself will set you free. You can't turn self-acceptance into a task for somebody else. You can't give somebody else the responsibility to make you feel good, to make your life good. First off, because it's your job. Acceptance comes from the inside. And secondly, because sometimes these people leave without training a replacement, and then you end up just filling the position with the next pimple-faced intern that shows up. Love yourself for being you. If there are things you don't like about you, figure out why and either lean into it or change them. Self-actualize. Number five, authenticity, values, honesty. Stop doing things for attention, doing things so that somebody will like you, or doing things to get a reaction out of somebody. It's not the most sustainable way to have a personality. The only way things are going to work is if you're doing them for yourself. When you do things for yourself, then they tend to take a slightly different color. They become things you do honestly instead of something you do with a hidden motive. Doing things for you will show you who you truly are, and that kind of knowledge is impossible to find elsewhere. Do things for yourself, for your own enjoyment, for your own growth. Number six, your health is everything. Your health is everything. If you're not sleeping correctly, if you're abusing alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, if you don't leave your house. I stopped smoking 2 years ago, and I do feel better. And I also saved money, which helps. but the things you put into your body have a huge impact on the quality of life you can actually have. So understand that it's incredibly important to take care and nurture your meat suit. It's the only thing that will make sure that you can dance when the music comes on. And I hate to say this, I really do, but it actually fucking works. Go to the gym, run, walk, exercise. Really does everything they claim it does, like flooding your body with the good chemicals that prevent you from being depressed and helping you get better sleep and all that stuff. I hate it, but it works. I hate that it works. Don't ignore your health. Number 7. You are not supposed to empty yourself to make room for somebody else. And I'm talking specifically about romantic partners. And this is also linked to boundaries. Our fear of abandonment can make us do crazy things. Statistically, you will end up with the wrong person. At first, you might end up with somebody that ever so slightly tells you that they don't like you. They don't like when you do things the way you do them. They don't like who you are. If you just changed this one little thing about you, you would be perfect. And it's a constantly evolving goalpost. It's never going to be enough. You will always be imperfect in the eyes of these people because it's about control. They seek to control you. They want to control who you are, what you think. And while they have control over you, they don't need to do any work. They don't need to self-actualize. They don't need to do any growth or healing because you are fitting into what their trauma demands. And that is just something to be very, very, very aware of. You can't empty yourself and become somebody that you're not for somebody else. You have a light inside of you, and this sort of thing will snuff it right out. Number 8. Be kinder. I wish I was more understanding when I was younger. I wish I understood where people were coming from better, why people treat you the way they do. And I wish I knew that kindness can really disarm someone. There's a fine line between being kind and being a pushover. And I'm still trying to find it, but I'd rather treat somebody with a gentle hand because if things end up going south regardless, then at least I have kept my integrity. Kindness is universal. And understanding where some people come from is an incredibly important tool. When you realize that some people come at you from a place of pain and they are treating you poorly because they are unhealed, because they are traumatized, that it falls to you to make the choice of either staying and gently working with them and helping them or leave to protect yourself. There is no right answer and consequentially, there is no wrong answer. What you choose to do with that is up to you and nobody else. Nobody that isn't paying a bill in your house anyways. And if you feel like you're always stressed if somebody likes you and you constantly do things to be in their good graces, it's usually a sign that you're the only one doing the work here. All this to say you should probably leave your abusive partner. Number 9, learn how to do small talk. Small talk is a skill that not a lot of people have. A lot of people, myself included, are the kind of people who don't talk to me about the weather. Talk to me about philosophy. Talk to me about politics. Talk to me about the important things in life. And that's just not how any of this works. Here, let me give you an example. Let's say you're in a room full of people. That naturally, because of who you are as a person, you are the smartest person in the room, the most interesting person in the room. So you're just sitting in the corner, hoping somebody will strike up a conversation and be like, hey, you look interesting. What are you up to? Like, don't lie. I know you've done that. I've done that. And so you're waiting for that cue so you can start talking about, the unfathomable depth of the universe and how we're all connected within it. But here's the thing. That doesn't lead to interesting conversations. Not at first, anyway. You have to build up to it. So, you ask them about the weather. And I know this has already caused some of you to break out in hives. The weather. What's interesting about the weather? Well, nothing on the surface, but talking about the weather with someone I meet at a party could lead to a conversation about what the weather is like, where they're from, which leads to a conversation about their childhood. Talking about the weather with someone I randomly meet while walking my dog lets me know they're going on holiday to sunnier shores. They have a nephew in Saint-Malo that loves kite surfing. Talking about the weather with my neighbor helped me find out it's too cold for an outdoor theater, so their kids' dance recital had to be moved indoors. Maybe I want to come see it. There's all sorts of interesting conversations you can have when you start talking about the weather. What's the weather like where you grew up? Where did you grow up? How was life like where you grew up? Now that's an interesting conversation. Who are you? So, start improving your ability to have small talk. I know some of you hate it, but it is very, very important. I am not going to give you my views on the universe till you ask me about the weather. And finally, number 10. You're not old. I'm old, but I'm not old. I remember very clearly one day in my childhood home when I was about 27 years old, looking in the mirror and being like, oh, I want to freeze this moment. This is where I peak. I wish I could stop time right now. That was 19 years ago. And I convinced myself that it was all downhill from there. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes in my life because I wasn't old. I wasn't old the next year when I turned 28. I wasn't old when I turned 29. I wasn't old when I was 30. I moved to Paris when I was 35, and that proved to be a good decision, a workable decision. I was lucky to move, sure, but I stayed because I worked hard at it. I wasn't old when I was 40 and I got a new job, and then I got divorced, and I met new people and made new connections, and now I'm 46. And I'm trying something new. And I do feel the pressure, the guilt, so many of my peers being so far ahead of me. But at the same time, I know, and I wish I knew that when I was looking at myself in the mirror when I was 27, I know I'm not too old to be doing this. You're never too old. You're always the right age. Circumstances might be difficult, and you might need a lot of luck and sometimes a lot of money for some of the things that you want to do. But age, that's not the issue. It never will be. So this week's action is simple. Slow down. Age gracefully. You have time. And also, ask somebody about the weather. It's rainy here in Paris. It's going to rain all week. And you know what? That's when I reach my final form. Actually, much easier. Tell me in the comments how the weather is where you're at. And also, let me know if you're still living in the same city you grew up in. How's the weather there? Oh, and finally, if you want to hear me talk more in depth about boundaries and how to use them, watch this next video. Or don't, if you don't want to. You can say no. No is a good enough reason for anything. See you next week.